Hey guys, how's it going? It's Ultimus, and I want to continue looking at our artifact weapon animations. This time looking at Death Knights. We're going to try to get through all three specs if we can, starting with Frost. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Looking at the Blades of the Fallen Prince. Now, in case you missed the memo, basically all Frost Death Knights are going to be dual wielding. No more two-handed option anymore for Frost Death Knights, exclusively dual wielding. Now, the lore behind these is pretty cool. You're basically picking up the old shards of Frostmourne and you are reassembling them to make your blades. Now, some lore nerds have a problem with that, some don't. I personally don't. I think it's kind of cool, so I'm going to be all about that life, especially if I decide to play Frost next expansion over Unholy, which isn't likely, but it's a possibility. Hopefully my camera isn't freaking out right now. I do apologize if there's any technical difficulties on any of the future videos. I did upgrade to Windows 10 today, so that could potentially be causing some issues. I do apologize for that. I had the entire episode recorded, and unfortunately, as I suspected, my camera was freaking out. About 55% of the video was all frozen. Audio was still going, but there was nothing going on screen, which is completely pointless when you're doing a video like we're doing here, looking at all of the animations and beautiful things going on. So we're going to go ahead and try to fill in those gaps as best as possible. Only downside to this is, of course, none of my responses are blind since I already know what the weapons look like. But it's still worth going with for you guys. I didn't want to give you guys a crap video. So let's take a look at Blades of the Fallen Prince. Basically, my impression for this one was it's the most true to Frostmourne that we're going to get for Frost Death Knight weapons. The hilt and everything up to the bit there with the skull on it, very much like Frostmourne. And this even looks like literally the tip of Frostmourne was picked up and put on top of this sword. So we don't have the entirety of Frostmourne, it doesn't look like, but just pieces of it more or less. And this one definitely, out of all the Frost Death Knight weapons, looks the most like Frostmourne. So if you're going for that Frostmourne look, this is probably going to be your go-to weapon as well. I'm curious to see what the offhand is going to look like. I'm not really sure off the top of my head. I don't quite remember since we're only seeing the one weapon here. But not a bad looking weapon at all. And of course then we have the greenish skin on it, which isn't bad. But I'll say it later when we talk about Unholy stuff. I feel like green is more of an Unholy color as opposed to blue, but I understand why they added green in, because again, you can't just have one or two colors for this, since people are all about customization. You want to have as many color combinations as possible. I'd like to see more than 4 put in for each spec in class and weapon and skin and everything, but I'm sure that will come with time, so I shall be patient. The red here is definitely my favorite one for sure. I mean, the next one is pretty cool too, but the red, I love that deep red on the hilt, the glowing red eyes, that black color contrasting with the orange tip there. It just looks vicious, and I love it. And then last but not least, we have what's very similar to this blue, just a different shade of blue, but then we have almost like a copper rustic finish on it with the purple hilt, and then of course the green glowing eyes. I really want to know what the animation is going to look like here, because if you look on like the blade, you can see stuff like floating around it, so I'd imagine it would be frost swirling around the edge of the blade. I can't imagine anything else, obviously, but I'm curious what kind of particle effects are going to be going on for it. But the sword itself looks cool. It looks really well thought out. It looks pretty well put together. It even looks sturdy. Like, you know, some weapons like in WoW just look flimsy and looks like they would break the second they come in contact with anything. They actually look like they can take a hit, so that's kind of cool. And then we're going to look at Blades of the Fallen Prince Frozen. So they're literally the exact same skin and sword, but if you look, it's actually just frozen. The tip of it, the hilt, all that. You can see frozen bits on the end here of the hilt of those horns. So pretty much the same exact thing down to the skin colors, which is totally fine, because again, if you want to be a frozen version of the previous sword, then it has to look the same. So you're getting alternative versions of the same sword, which is kind of cool. Still digging the red and of course that blue at the end, but compared to the two, I think I just like the clean versions of each of these the most for sure. Let's look at Soul Collector. These look pretty slick, almost warlock-ish though, with the hilt and everything. It looks like an open tomb and a grave, and just stuff is leaking out and crawling out. I'd imagine what we're going to see is frost coming out from the center of the blade. It looks like the blade itself has a life of its own, which I can imagine is what they're going for anyways. It reminds me a little bit of the WoD challenge mode one-hander swords. They just have the kind of hook on the end. Obviously, these aren't going to build up on itself like a transformer, but it's still pretty cool looking. Same thing. It got a face on both sides of the hilt, which is kind of cool. But the color on this one isn't bad. I don't mind it. Same thing with the green. I'm digging more of the black. The gold in there is really nice. But again, just not too big of a fan for the green when it comes to frost stuff. But it's a good shade of green, I will say. The purple, I could see this going very well with the ICC set. There's the purple set, not the blue or the red one that you get when you get into 25s and heroics. But there's the 10-man set. Would look pretty cool with this one, I think. But then that red just takes the cake, hands down. Probably the warrior in me that just can't get past loving red, but just the black and just that clean cut silver there on the end with just the foreboding red there. Just, oh, looks super cool. So, but I think out of all the sword models, this one might be my least favorite. I think. Yeah, probably. Unfortunately, which is okay. And then we're going to look at Sindragosa Fury. This one, however, this thing is just a piece of work in the best way. It's brutal looking, it's vicious, and I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of frost coming off of it as well. So it kind of hits home on both fronts for Death Knight. You're undead and you're frozen to the core. But I mean, look at this. I mean, we got like, it looks like strands of muscle, tissue, maybe like, you know, even friggin', you know, sinew and joints and all, whatever, everything on here. Just kind of a gory mess. And even got the runes on the blade as well, which is kind of cool. But I think this one is probably my favorite blade out of all of them. Even some of the other color combinations. The green, very fell looking. And then you get over to this orange or this red color and it's just like, oh, this is just cool looking. It almost looks like... Actually, you know what? Looking at these colors, these, I don't know if they planned this at all, but these are totally the colors of the Dragonflights too. You got the blue Dragonflight, you've got the green Dragonflight, you've got the black Dragonflight, and then we've got, you know, the bronze Dragonflight. The only one we're missing really is the red Dragonflight, which is interesting to me. But I don't even know if they planned that at all, but it's kind of cool. It's interesting, especially since it's Sindragosa Fury. That was an epic fight back in Wrath of the Lich King. That was one of the most blood-chilling, like, pre-fight sessions, and then when you actually got to the fight, it was crazy. But anyways, this one for sure my favorite skin out of all of them. That yellow's not bad either, but I definitely that orange and the blue for sure. But I just love the way this weapon is structured. It's sick looking. I love it. Just the muscle tissue and it's just a gory mess, and it's like, ugh, but it's so cool. It's perfect for a Frost Death Knight. And then lastly, we have Gravekeeper, which compared to all of the other weapons, if you look at, you know, Blades of the Fallen Prince, Frozen Blades of the Fallen Prince, the Soul Collector, I guess Sindragosa Fury, and then there's Gravekeeper. Gravekeeper is the most unique out of all of them. Every single other Frost Death Knight weapon here has a very recurring theme, a very similar feel to it almost, whereas Gravekeeper is completely different than everything else. And believe it or not, Gravekeeper is actually my second favorite one. After Sindragosa Fury, which I don't remember if I said it or not, so I'm going to say it again. I think this could be the PvP weapon for the PvP skin for Death Knights, for Frost Death Knights. That's what my gut's telling me, so I'm going to go with it. But anyways, back to Gravekeeper. It looks like a gravestone. It looks like a tombstone. Just that headstone there. Can't really remember what I'm trying to say. But that's the feel I'm getting. It looks like a headstone for a grave, and then just the clean cut on that blade looks really cool. I could see myself wielding these a lot if I played my Death Knight as Frost come Legion. The fell colored green, of course. Still not a huge fan of the green, but it doesn't go bad with the weapon, that's for sure. It almost goes better with the weapon than the blue. The blue is cool, but the green just seems to fit more, even though it doesn't feel like a Frost Death Knight color. The purple, however, is sick with that gold inlay there. If you take a look at it, just along the inner portions of that sword, that gold work there on the inside with that purple reminds me of the Lakers. It's the Laker sword, but it's definitely cool. That cool contrast, I think, is spot on. And then last but not least, we have this red and yellow color here, which looks, again, very good. And this almost feels very warrior-ish, and I feel like all of the reds just feel like they're more of a warrior color anyways. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I feel like these would work really well with the heroic tier from Blackwing Descent in Cataclysm. and that set that drops in, or just that molten set that drops for Death Knights, just looks amazing. I can imagine that color and skin looking really good with it as well. So that one's pretty cool. And then let's take a look at Maw of the Damned for Blood Death Knights. This is one of the better looking original artifacts I think they came up with for classes come Legion. Again, because you gotta remember, not all of these weapons have a pre-established lore in the game. Very few of them do. If they do, it's connected to a different weapon or sorts. I mean, again, the Ashbringer is really the only one that has any pre-established lore and has even been in the game in the first place. For players to use, because I mean, there's, you know, the Blades of the Fallen Prince, which is attached to Frostmourne, but it's not actually like wielding Frostmourne, so it's different. Whereas Ashbringer is the Ashbringer. But when it comes to Maw of the Damned, the lore behind this is pretty sick, and the design behind it I think is really cool for a original artifact weapon. And so we're looking at that deep red, which is probably one of my favorite skins for it. And we got the purple, which I could see this going really well again with the 10-man version of the ICC gear. And just the green there, but that face is just gnarly. I hope that this is one of those weapons that actually like talks to you. I really do. I really, really do. And then that blue, the blue with the silver bit on it is actually really, really cool, I think. I really enjoy that a lot. I do apologize if there's any technical difficulties on any of the future videos. I have metal plating on it and the hook black and white. I've always just like... I don't know why, but I don't know, that's... I do apologize too if I'm repeating myself in some of the stuff I've said in other portions of the video, since again this was recorded after the fact, since I had to correct the mistake of laggy video footage. But I do just enjoy that blue color here with the silver along the edge. And if you look even on the inside of the weapon there, you'll notice those runes there on the inside of it as well, plus of course on the skull in the center of it. But I can see this being one of the weapons that benefits very well from talking to you or whispering to you while you're swinging it. Just talking about how hungry it is and it constantly needs to feast. It wants more and more blood as a Blood Death Knight. I can see that being a cool flavor text there. Then Blood Drinker. Blood Drinker just is the more advanced version of it, like we've seen with all the other weapons. The runes are gone on the inside for whatever reason. Interesting. And looks like there's more blood going on there in the center of the weapon. Maybe not really. No, about the same. Never mind. But it's cool. I do like that they filled in the gaps of those spikes and pikes there on the inside just with some fan blades. Pretty sick looking. It looks a little more brutal and intimidating, I think. Same colors, though. As always, I mean, it would make sense that these colors would be the same as the previous skin because it's a more advanced version, I think. So, but still really liking the red and the blue for sure. Nothing else I think compares to it. That red and blue are my favorites for this weapon most definitely. That's pretty brutal looking. It's just got the scythe in there plus the metal. That's pretty... And then we come to Deathbringer. Definitely a cool looking weapon. That's pretty brutal looking. It's just got the scythe in there plus the metal plating on it and the hook on the end. Crazy. Almost like a turquoise there in that color there. So I can get behind that. Pretty spiffy. Let there be a red color. Oh, no, that's the purple with the gold though. See, purple and gold. It's the Laker axe. That one's pretty sick looking as well, I think. Pretty good stuff. Not much to say other than that, really. And then, oh, see, that's sick. I don't know why, but I love that black and white. I've always just liked black and white contrast, though. Like, if I could, I'd have my entire house just decorated with, like, black and white furniture and walls. I don't know what that says about me, but there it is. That black and white one is pretty sick. That would actually go really good with the Paladin set from Warlords Season 1. And if you got the off pieces for that and decked your DK out in that, plus with this weapon, that would go pretty sick together. So I'm already like getting a feel for what I want to transmog stuff on, which is kind of funny. And Decaying. I'm pretty sure this is the PvP one, if I'm not mistaken. So right there, and I don't really know why you'd PvP with a Death Knight unless you're a scumbag, but hey, there it is. Sorry, I said that. I actually said that. Dang, shots fired. Can't be called a nice guy anymore. But I'm digging that vine work around there almost. Or like, not even vines, I guess it's what's left of a wrap for the handle that's just decaying off, which is pretty cool. Did the rest of them have that? No, they didn't. But this one does. Okay, that's kind of cool. Same thing, digging that silver color with the greenish look there. Pretty cool, I think. Oh, see, I missed one. There's the red. Oh, that's sick. It's just like the animation effect on there is really cool. Even just looking at just that little bit going on back there. I mean, even though I'm sure it's not 100% what it's going to be, so I can't imagine what it's going to look like in game. Like this just looks very Blood Death Knight. There's just no way around it. It looks like a Blood Death Knight weapon for sure. And I know Blizzard talked about like flavor text and animations and the weapons actually like talking to you, kind of like old Ashbringer did back in the day. So I'm curious if that's actually going to be a thing still, because I could totally see this weapon just like whispering to you and yelling at you while you're swinging it. It just, I don't know, it just seems like a thing that would happen. And then Executioner. See, okay, this one probably decaying is really cool, but this one just looks clean. I like this one a lot. This one almost reminds me of the axe that dropped in ICC as well. Just very clean, straight razor look. I'm digging the blindfolded skull. I don't know why it's blindfolded. Not like he's going to see anything anyways. It's a skull on the top of the weapon. Unless it actually does talk to you. In that case, you probably don't want him seeing where you're going because you don't want him to know where you live. And then we got the purple. See, the purple and green is really cool with that. Ah, so sick. And then we got basically almost a black and white look again, but it's almost more like a tinted yellow. This one is sick. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Actually, I mean, a lot of these weapons, the Blood Death Knight ones, I think are very well done. I don't think I've looked at any of them here and thought, nah. I like the way they all look. They all feel very appropriate. The skins are very cool. And I just think overall these ones are really well done. Let's take a look, last but not least, at Unholy. Starting off with Apocalypse, the baseline weapon itself. With the coolest proc effect ever, your attacks have a chance to summon a member of your Army of the Dead. Pretty cool. See, that makes more sense than just proccing Army of the Dead. Still pretty sick. That green feels very appropriate for an Unholy Death Knight. Lots of plague, pestilence, destruction, rotting flesh. Just a beautiful thing. The blue's not bad either. It just, again, it feels weird having Frost Death Knights have like green tints on their weapons, and then it feels weird having Unholy Death Knights having blue tints on their weapons. Just because like blue is so like allocated to Frost and green is so very like Unholy. But I do understand that, you know, people like different colors and color options, and so you got to give lots of options, I think. So hopefully we get more than 4. The purple I am digging though a lot. I feel like that would go really well with a lot of transmog sets I have for my Unholy Death Knight. And then last but not least, that red. Oh, dude, yeah, I can guarantee you I'll be using the red one a lot. I also want to know how big this sword is, too. I want to know. And that's always my big question when it comes to two-handers. Because, like, there's some massive two-handers out there that are just a little ridiculous. Like, okay, I use it, and I haven't stopped using it since I got it. But the Great Sword of the Inferno from WoD Challenge modes, that thing is insane. Like, it's just ridiculous. Especially for Fury, like, dual-wielding that thing. It's complete and total utter rubbish, and it's wonderful because it's so over the top. You know, and then you have weapons like Zoid's Firelight Greatsword from Firelands, and that's a two-hander, but it definitely looks like a one-hander. So you're like, there's got to be some in between there. So hopefully, with these two-handers, they're big enough to where it actually looks like a two-hander. Let's look at Pestilence first, real quick. See, oh my goodness, what the heck? That's so cool looking. So it's got very similar stuff there, almost similar to some of the Frost Death Knight ones with the skull for the hilt, the bone there, and then it just breaks off at the top there. Whatever that's going to look like is pretty sick, but the flies floating around it like it's actually rotting away is pretty sick. Oh, that's dope. And then, oh, that red. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. These weapons are brutal looking, like absolutely brutal. That green, oh my gosh, and then the yellow. Like, I can't get over how crazy these look. These are actually crazy looking. The more I look at these weapons, the more I'm loving the Unholy Death Knight weapons. They feel very well thought out. They feel very well implemented. And they look like something an Unholy Death Knight would use. This one I'm fairly certain is the PvP one. If I'm not mistaken, that or Famine is. I can't remember. But I'm fairly certain one of these two is. Crazy looking sword there. That one, not too much of a fan of, I suppose, compared to the other ones. It's not bad, though. I don't hate it, that's for sure. But it doesn't appeal to me as opposed to Apocalypse or Pestilence, for sure. But that deep red is pretty sick there. I'm not going to lie. that deep red, and then we get the black. So we even got the white. Be still, my beating heart. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I want it. I need it. Legion, come soon. I'm trying to like keep a calm and together composure over this, but I'm geeking out right now because this color looks really cool. Let's look at Famine. See, that's cool too. Got the hook on it. See, this looks almost like, definitely like a Grim Reaper type blade. Maybe not so much Grim Reaper because again, it's not quite Death. Though I would imagine that's what Death is going to look like, the scythe. But again, they're definitely going for like a 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse type thing here for sure, between like, War, Famine, Death, Pestilence, and then Apocalypse itself. So looking very much almost like something, it's decrepit, it's decayed, it's bent, it's, dying away almost. It's getting that feel to it. It just almost looks like a busted up spine, to be completely honest with you. It looks like a curved, busted up spine. And maybe I'm overthinking this and getting way too creative with the brutal thought, but that's what it just reminds me of, and I think it's very well thought out. The green there, definitely cooler than the blue, I think. The blue's cool, but that green just feels very appropriate for it. And then we have that orange, which also looks super cool. And then that deep red, which definitely sparks my interest. Let's look at Death. Yep, called it. Sickle. That, again, very, very quintessential, what you would imagine for Death. You are the avatar of Death, Grim Reaper, all that good stuff. Looking pretty sick there. That blue is also very appropriate. Even though blue does tend to be a Frost Death Knight color, I think it's just very cold looking and chilling, much like Death, very empty. The skulls along the inlay of that blade there is pretty dope. Nice touch there. Good attention to detail rather than letting it just be a flat blade. That purple is cool though too. So even that looks very cool, because then we're getting into like dark and sinister Grim Reaper stuff here. Red, don't let me down. See, it looks like, okay. This is where we get happy, because it's just crazy. It looks like a flaming death sword, and I can't be happier. Like, I just imagine that being molten, even though I know it's not, but I just imagine it. Let me have my imagination. I'm curious what the animation is going to look like, because if you look up atop here, there's obviously stuff there, but if you look at it from the side, it looks like there's pieces missing. So that'll be interesting. And then I'll see that gold working there with the blue. Oh, so sick. So Unholy Death Knights, definitely really happy with how the weapons turned out. In all honesty, all of the Death Knight weapons, Frost, Blood, Unholy, they all look really cool. All of their artifact effects, I think, are really, really cool. The skin colors are dope. Still really enjoying Sindragosa Fury as my favorite for the Frost Death Knight ones for sure, with the Gravekeeper actually pulling up on a close second. I'm not going to lie. I like that one very, very much. The standard Blades of the Fallen Prince are cool, though, too. Soul Collector's okay, but between Sindragosa Fury and Gravekeeper, those take the cake for me for Frost Death Knights. Definitely Decaying or Executioner. Maw of the Damned, it's just the standard skin looks cool as well for Blood Death Knight, but I think I'm going to have to go with Decaying or Executioner for my favorite for the Blood Death Knight. And then Unholy between Death and Pestilence. I just love the Pestilence sword. I think the Pestilence sword is amazing looking. I just can't wait. Like, I will probably use the Pestilence skin more than any other skin in the game, depending on what they roll out after Legion launches. But like, just looking at the 5 baseline skins we're getting for Apocalypse, I can guarantee you I will be probably using Pestilence more than any other skin for sure. I love the flavor on it, the color, the way they all work together. I love those flies floating around there. It just feels so perfect for an Unholy Death Knight as far as I'm concerned. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been trying to keep it condensed as best as possible, just because if I'm not, this could easily turn into a 30-minute video, and that just seems a bit lengthy. So if you made it this far, I do appreciate it. Thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter. We have a Facebook page. Hit me up there. Hit that with a like. That way you will be notified and you can see when videos are going live. You can talk to me, and I'm free to chat on Twitter whenever you guys want. And, of course, my Instagram is probably just a ton of puppy pics and food. Literally, that's all it is. And occasionally gaming stuff. So there's that. If you're interested in all that, I'd love to connect with you guys. But as always, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. If you enjoyed it, have something to say, let me know what your favorite skin is. I'd love to hear from you guys. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.